Released on November 3rd, 2015 in America and November 5th, 2015 in PAL regions, we have the Peanuts movie, Snoopy's Grand Adventure, based off the Peanuts comic strips by Charles Schulz. Released for the PlayStation 4, Wii U, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and the Nintendo 3DS, the game was developed by Behaviour Interactive, published by Activision, and distributed by Fox Digital Entertainment. The game was released to complement and coincide with the release of the Peanuts movie, which released in cinemas on November 1st in New York and November 6th everywhere else. The version reviewed is the PlayStation 4 version with some footage taken from the 3DS port. There isn't too much of a story to Snoopy's Grand Adventure. The game generally has you playing as Snoopy as he searches for Charlie Brown and his friends as they play hide and seek. While the game is primarily a single player experience, a second player can join locally and play as Snoopy's friend Woodstock. The goal of the game is to get to the end of each level and collect the 300 jelly beans scattered in each level, as well as find the 5 Beagle Scouts hidden in each level. Snoopy can also make use of costumes that he collects over the course of the game in order to utilise special skills and abilities that he would also need to reach certain places. Each of these costumes are based off an alter ego that Snoopy had adopted in the comics, such as the Masked Marvel, who debuted in 1967, or Joe Cool, who debuted in 1971, to name a couple. But is the game any good? Find out in The Good. Level variety was handled very well, with settings vastly different from one another. As I mentioned earlier, in reality Snoopy is searching for Charlie Brown and his friends, but the levels are played out in Snoopy's vivid imagination. Whether it's in a jungle, the Parisian underground, or even space, the settings are unique and the locations well thought out. The level designs are something I also thought was handled well. With multiple paths to take and the opportunity to backtrack, the game promotes exploring over anything else. As you unlock Snoopy's costumes, you do have the opportunity to return to previous levels and use the new costumes to get to places that were once inaccessible. Each stage consists of 4 levels, with a 5th level acting as a boss fight. Some require you to defeat the boss, and others may simply require you to reach the end of the level. The game's graphics are very impressive, and the visual presentation really paid off. Music complemented the stages very well, and certainly maintains the light-hearted attitude of the game, as well as Peanuts in general. However, the game isn't perfect, so with the good, there must come the bad. There isn't much to talk about in regards to the bad with Snoopy's Grand Adventure. The only major complaint I really had was that the game did suffer from some frame drops, which became more noticeable once I had unlocked the world's famous detective. The 3DS port of the game's frame rate was absolutely atrocious, and collision detection left something to be desired. The magnifying glass used by the world's famous detective, while handy for revealing hidden passages, was also quite obstructive, and I wasn't particularly keen on it taking up the space it did on the screen. Backtracking to collect the missing jelly beans once you had unlocked certain costumes was also somewhat annoying. When replaying levels, the jelly beans you had already collected will be transparent. However, some of the jelly beans are less transparent than others, causing some minor confusion. Other than that, there really isn't much to talk about here, so it's time for the opinion. Snoopy's Grand Adventure makes for a good platformer. I would recommend this game to anyone who is a fan of the Peanuts comic strips, whether they are young or young at heart. The game certainly captures the atmosphere, and while it does have the Peanuts movie in its title, the game does not spoil the movie if you haven't seen it yet. While the game does have some interesting quirks, such as jelly beans changing colour when they're not on screen, or Snoopy entering his falling animation while climbing, I feel that these were just minor oversights. In regards to difficulty, the game is very easy, so it's good for younger children, and the addition of having a second player play as Woodstock, feature isn't present in the 3DS port, family and or friends can even get involved. However, if you excel at platformers, I would probably look for something that's much more challenging. So, with that, it's time for my rating. I would give the Peanuts movie, Snoopy's Grand Adventure, Joe Cool out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review.